What I'm going to talk to you about today really is the patient perspective. So Samantha has talked about the kind of industry perspective, and I'm going to tell you a bit about the patient perspective, and particularly looking at this notion of online health communities. And I wanted to start with a question. How many people in the room have already used an online health community? Okay, so there's a few people who've used one. So a lot of you probably won't really know what is an online health community. Well, really, with the whole growth of the internet and the whole growth of social media, there is more and more of these kind of community devices online which act as kind of collectives of individuals working on specific themes. And in health, what we see is people with similar diseases coming online into specific communities. And there are different forms of communities, and some of these are increasingly moving towards what could be called registries. And in the next 5-10 minutes, what I'm going to do is take you through the journey that we have been on AKU and to explain a bit the different things that we have seen. So if you know about AKU, you'll know it's black bone disease. It affects both of my children who have the disease. And when we set up the AKU Society 8 years ago, we knew of only 4 people in the world with this disease. 8 years later, after a global identification campaign, we know of 800, okay? 100 in India just been identified, 250 in Slovakia, 100 in the US, 80 in the UK, 35 in France, etc. And one of the problems we have is knowing exactly how the disease really affects these people, even though AKU was discovered 110 years ago and was the first genetic disease ever discovered, okay? And that's why for us, registries are so important, okay? We now have a global consortium. We're just launching plans for a clinical trial with SOBI, with PSR group covering 10 different countries. But one of the key issues we have is actually gathering data about the patients. So we have individual registries. We have one in Liverpool for the UK, one in the US, one in Slovakia, and these are great. They're academic registries. But what they don't do is provide actual data to the patients. And that is where online communities come in. So this is a journey that we went through. We started off with this, which is a Yahoo group, okay? A lot of you might have used these things as kind of email exchanges, developed a lot in the late 90s, and now used as kind of, listservs, whatever, as means of communication. Very effective, creates a kind of disparate community, okay? But not really the strong sense of community that we expect. Facebook, our Facebook page and our Captaineria is a form of online community, okay? Incredibly busy. Every day we get dozens of posts, self-managing, so a great way to get a feeling of bonding amongst patients. And this is a typical example of what we would call a qualitative community, which are narrative-based, which are based on just exchange of stories and exchange of information. And the next stage of that is really this one, where we've been involved with the Eurodis Nord rare disease communities, which again is a narrative-based community where people, kind of meet and learn. For instance, here, we have all the different groups in France, in the UK, in Italy, in North America. People share their experience. You can see at the bottom of using an off-label drug, nitazoxanide, which is the one we're going to take through trials. And again, a great experience, okay? But there's a key problem with qualitative groups. If ever you've used an online group, or if ever you've searched for information online, you can search forever till you find what you want. You can also get really engrossed in this. And studies in the Internet Journal of Medical Research have actually shown that people with mental health problems see a dip in their mental health if they use qualitative groups too much, because it encourages rumination and encourages depressive symptoms. And we know that a lot of rare disease patients also have comorbidities in depression and other mental health, and hence, using these groups too much can actually have a negative impact on them. In some cases, it's very positive, in some cases, it's negative, okay? And that's a really important point, which is why moving to more data-driven groups is so important, okay? This is an example of one, Cure Together. And it is a group where people will go for different diseases and actually input data on the evolution of their disease. Now, the one we're going to focus on over the next minute or so is this one, Patients Like Me, okay? Set up by an American company, I would say one of the most progressive and one of the most innovative of these kind of online, data-driven online communities, which is slowly going to morph into a registry. We are just entering into a partnership with them, and this is really what I find an absolutely brilliant piece of software. Because what you do when we'll set up this one on alkaptonuria is basically patients will be able to follow all their symptoms, all their treatments, all the conditions, adverse effects and everything, and they will be able to follow their disease over time, follow their treatments over time, and they will be able to, on a day-to-day basis, fill in their instant me and come up with this kind of data. So this is for multiple sclerosis, where it gives all the different things, you know, the severity of their data, and then it compares it to other patients, okay? And this is data-driven, and research, again, in the Internet Journal of Medical Research has actually shown that in 25% of respondents to one of their surveys, they actually found that it led to a significant increase in their mood and in their sense of empowerment and in also their sense of control over their disease, okay? And this is starting to morph now with patient registries, and we think this is a very significant move towards actually empowering patients. And if you haven't gone onto this kind of website like Patients Like Me, I would really recommend that you go on there, set up an account and play with it, you know. Either for yourself or your kids or whatever, it's a really powerful piece of software, okay? And this is the final thing I wanted to just mention, and this is really a patient-centered community set up by Mohammed, who is a patient. He lives not far from me in Cambridge in the UK, also suffers from a rare disease. And he has set up this thing called Patients Know Best, which is where the patient start to control their medical records and create a community around themselves where they start sharing their medical records and information with different doctors, GPs, medical professionals, other patients, etc. And this is really the future of patient-centered communities. Thank you.